Hey Peggy, how are you?
Hey, doing great. Good to talk to you, Will.
I wanted to spend a minute giving you a chance to talk about gene capture and what you're doing right now, because folks might not know about what you're building up there in Huntsville and just how revolutionary it really is.
Yeah, Gene Capture is a pretty awesome story. It's been a really interesting company to be a part of. I met my co-founder, Krishnan Chatur, several years ago. He had just received a patent award from his work at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. He's a chemical engineering professor there. And the origin story is this. Krishnan and his wife had a preemie baby. It was a very stressful situation. The doctor looked at the x-rays and said, we see these shadows in the lungs. I think your little baby girl has got pneumonia. We're going to start an antibiotic right now, take a sample, get it to the lab. We'll get the news back to you as soon as we can. Well, back in those days and today, as soon as we can means 3 to 4 days. The time it takes to identify a pathogen that is colonizing in your body takes that many days. And so a few days later, the doctors came back and said, Great, there's no infection. We've stopped the antibiotic. So Krishnan said, Yeah, that is great news. I'm glad she doesn't have an infection, but we've just pumped antibiotics into this immature immune system for 3 or 4 days. What does that do to the human body and to a developing body and a developing immune system? So Krishnan's origin story helped get the company started, but there are just so many stories like that. People who have been misdiagnosed, people who have no idea that they have an infection. They've got a fever, but they don't know what it is, and it goes undiagnosed for a long time. Doctors who are forced to guess at what it is and give the wrong antibiotic all over the world. This is happening. I met Krishnan. I read his patent. I really liked it. And I thought, this is one that I can get my heart into. Let's do it together. So we co founded the company together. And we have since built to a team of a couple dozen folks. And we have built a rapid identification system for pathogens that we see can be revolutionary in the healthcare market for two big reasons. One is we can do this without a lab. If you go to the doctor today, Will, and you've got an infection or your child has an infection, that they're going to take a sample. They're going to say, "We'll let you know what it is in a couple of days." They're going to send that sample to a nearby lab. There's onboarding, there's doing the process, there's sending the information back. We found a way to get all of that to go away. We've developed a cartridge, and this cartridge is a little handheld piece of plastic. It's a little plastic sandwich, basically, that is full of inventive steps and patents. And we basically figured out a way to take a raw sample. So I'm talking about blood, swab, urine, put that raw sample in here, and within an hour, come up with an answer that tells you the genetic signature of the pathogen that's in there. Well, that's a remarkable thing to be able to do in 1 hour. And there's nobody else that's doing that type of thing. We've designed this on a microarray so that it can give all those answers very quickly. And we've come up with a second platform, and then we can get into the details of why this is so important later. But the
Yeah.
second platform is figuring out which antibiotic works best to kill the bacteria that's in that sample that we just figured out what the pathogen is. So these two big platform changes have made us very interesting in the healthcare and medical field.
Yeah.
And we have been sought out by hospitals and medical professionals to come up with solutions for how we can solve this big problem that's out there. So that's where we are now. We've worked with the Department of Defense, we've won a number of projects, and we're now ready to start the FDA clinical process.
Awesome. And that microarray can have how many different genetic fragments?
That microarray allows us to look for many things at once. That's very different than other diagnostics that are out there today. So we could look for up to 200 pathogens at once. Now, not every disease has 200 pathogens contributing to it, but that is the capability of the system is to look for that many at one time.
You've mentioned you got a lot of patents, but talk to me a little bit about the evidence that you have for this thing working.
I'll say this is not my first startup. I've been in the startup phase before. So, very important for me in the early phases of the lab work was not to do everything in a buffer, not to do everything in a lab. Let's get real samples. So, we have checked real urine samples, real blood samples, real wound swabs as we determine all of this. And we've worked with the various people around the world to give us clinical samples, for example, of dengue and other very difficult samples to come by. How does this work and how do we know it's so accurate? One thing I'll tell you is we've won 11 Department of Defense contracts, there's through the SBIR program. Each one of those has to be technically validated and competitive. We have also put this technology in third-party hands so others can use it and try it. Overall, I'd say when we compare ourselves to what's currently the gold standard, which is the cultured microbiology that happens in a lab, when we compare ourselves to that gold standard, we are generally in the 95 to 98% to 100% matching range. So we feel very confident. We've met with the FDA and we have completed what's called the pre-submission process, which is a really big step. They look at that evidence from third parties. They look at how we calibrate, how we report, what the product design is. And once you complete that pre-submission, which we have, you're basically cleared to start your clinical trials. So I'm not concerned about accuracy or sensitivity of the equipment. I feel we've been through enough. I mean, we've probably run 10,000 tests on various cartridges in our lab over the years as we've been working on this product.
Awesome. I love that you've got all these technical milestones. Tell me a little bit about some of the customers that have been paying you and some of the larger opportunities that you're excited about.
Yeah, and I love big markets and I love being able to scale into something big. This is a platform. So this impacts a lot of different customer problems. But I'd say the biggest one is first world human health infection detection. Whether that's urinary tract infection or wound or emerging pathogens that are out there, it's how do you quickly solve a human's problem? Once our technology is adopted, they could get this information at a dock in the box, at a school, at a rural post office. I mean, any place you can go. This is very easy to operate. Our system, and this is very much by design, does not require AC, does not require water, refrigeration. We designed this to be something that could operate in an austere environment, even though most environments in the US are not austere, but some of them are very rural. So back to your question on who is going to use this first, we're targeting the clinic and doctor's offices first. But this really ripples out to farms, to borders, to security, to quarantining evacuees and looking at disaster sites. It's amazing how deep infection detection is in not just our country, but globally. If you look at it, this is probably a $30 billion market globally. I'm just going to give you statistics on one disease, urinary tract infection, which a lot of us sort of shrug off as, oh, it happens, whatever, you can get over it. Actually, not. It leads to sepsis a number of times. It leads to kidney infections, which are very severe. But there's 10 million visits a year in the US alone on urinary tract infections. That's just one indication. There's double that on wound infections. So, where do we start and where do we move to has actually been kind of a fun business challenge for us. And the most of the people we've talked to, they've really picked up on bringing this technology out of the lab and hospital lab environment and into a point of care. I can tell you, though, we have such interesting conversations with people who are in hospitals and on cruise ships and in battlefield aid stations who have great interest and need for this. It's really been a fun challenge to decide how we roll this out.
If you go down the list of the news stories of the last few months, we've had hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship. We've had an Ebola outbreak. We've got folks flying all over the country and all over the world. And the current tests that are used are pretty slow and hard to catch all these different diseases. Being able to have almost anyone who walks in to an emergency room for a relatively low price get confirmed that they don't have 200 pathogens could go a long way to speeding up high quality care.
You've just hit on a couple of interesting points, Will, because one is if you take a look at what's currently the technology in lateral flow, which is like a little COVID test. What those quick little 15-minute COVID tests are telling you is your body building a defense system against a certain, in this case, coronavirus? That's all it tells you. It doesn't tell you it's there, how much is there, is this what's causing the fever? It's just saying, does your body have these defenses built into it? A lot of the quick and rapid diagnostics are just what I call one trick ponies. So if the answer is no, well, then it's like, well, then what do I have? So we've looked at this separately. We've said, let's come up with a cartridge that takes a universal sample, blood, urine, or swab, looks for universal pathogens, bacteria, virus, or parasitic, and gets that answer right away. Krishnan and I told this team, yeah, this can be done. We see how this can be done based on technology that's out there today and our new inventions and new patents. We've really tried to address what you've just talked about, all these different applications head on. And what a lot of citizens don't realize is you might look at today and say, oh, is that just a little convenience to be able to get your answer 3 days sooner? No, it's actually a major health issue, and it's about to get a lot worse. We're dealing as a country, as a global community right now with antimicrobial resistance. And what that means is there are pathogens out there that we've been living with for years and new ones that are coming where there is no antibiotic that kills it, or there's an old antibiotic and now that pathogen is resistant to it. Antimicrobial resistance is a tough new challenge for us. In fact, the World Health Organization is predicting that will be the number one killer of society by 2050, unless there's a whole new class of antibiotics developed. One of the difficult problems about antimicrobial resistance is that people don't know what they have, so they're taking the wrong antibiotic and causing more and more resistance. So rapid pathogen detection is really it's foundational to our health. It's a silent issue for us right now because we don't see it every day, but it's coming.
The other thing that you built is the ability to digitize your diagnostics. And in the future, where you have multiple gene capture installations around a city or a state or a country, you could actually share that digital information and really use it to identify trends in infectious disease.
I think it's a really interesting part of this. So we call it the global infection grid. And you could sort of think of this as a global weather map, but about infection. So that is becoming really critical because we have such a dense population right now in terms of people, animals, and travel. Consequently, infections travel very quickly. So being able to watch almost in real time where these infections are in the world and where they're traveling to would allow people to, A, be more careful, B, get the medicine to the right place, C, have the hospitals be prepared for an influx because you can see it coming. I'd say it's a piece of intelligence that we as a civilization have really needed. And now we finally got a way to get there.
That's awesome, Peggy. Well, the last thing is where could gene capture be in the next, call it 3 to 5 years? I know you're raising capital, you're building partnerships. We've got leaders around the state that have supported you. But where could you be if the stars aligned, when the stars aligned to get this thing launched?
I'd say in 3 to 5 years, we want to be in the commercial market, in clinics, and basically distributing this new technology for point of care infection detection in a big way. But there's a whole nother side to this, and that is our scientists have really become expert on rapidly diagnosing conditions. So I've talked about infection detection today, but there's other disease conditions, forms of cancer, forms of tumors that you can get an early diagnosis on. And I'm excited about building those research labs inside our infrastructure. There's just a lot more this team can be doing. I'd say in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll have a number of partners. They'll be probably regional hospitals, clinics, distributors, cruise ship companies, and a lot of global health. We're working with global health consultants right now on hotspot areas and something that's called spillover. And spillover is when you have an animal pathogen spill over into human body. That's where the humans are least capable. We just don't have millions and millions of years of experience in our immune system to cover something. Spillover effects, like COVID-19, are very critical to how we go forward. I expect us to be on the tip of the spear of the infection disease markets in the global environment.
Peggy, I know you're raising capital right now, but outside of the capital raise, what's one thing that folks could do to help you right now?
Yes, I'd say the one thing is the right partnerships. Bringing global thought leaders to our board, to our advisory board, is very important to us, and having the right distribution partners. We want to be with the new forward thinkers on distribution who can be fast, mobile, keep costs low, the smart people who are also concerned about.
Peggy, it's been a joy to work with you. Frankly, impressed with your leadership and how you've been able to will this thing into reality. So excited to see it happen.
Well, thanks, Will. It's been good working with you too. I just love working with the connections in Alabama. We have supported Alabama Launchpad. We've been a winner twice there. I was one of the commissioners on Innovate Alabama, so I know what Alabama is trying to do, and I fully support it. And we'd like to be one of the big Alabama success stories.
Awesome, Peggy. I really appreciate your time. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks, Will. Bye.